Hello everyone, this will be a brief overview of how to use Tortuga's Rule the Waves Fleet Combat Simulator. So in my free time as a hobby, I just developed a simulator. Idea is maybe one day we'll be able to auto-simulate some of the auto-resolve, some of even the bigger, not just one-on-one ship combat events in Rule the Waves. What is going to come with the simulator is fleet1.txt, fleet2.txt, and the actual executable. This is already an outdated version. I'm up to 0.400, which should be like basically the beta candidate that I post on the Rule the Waves discussion forum. But it's fine, it'll work. I mean, it's going to function the same. The important thing is how to set up these fleet1.txt and fleet2.txt files. I'm going to open one of them. These are CSVs. You can open them in Excel as a CSV if you like. The format of each fleet, so obviously fleet 1 is one side and fleet 2 is the other side. Inside either of these files or both of them, they're really the same format. I'll open the other one so you can see. That's what it looks like. But these files are a little bit too wide, but that's fine. So what you're going to look at here is everything's in quotes if it's a name or even if it's a file path. You need a D to specify a new division, the comma, so comma separated values. And then this is the name of the division. So if you do anything above the first D, I think it's just ignored, or I don't know, it could cause the file to crash. So this is why I'm including the fleet1.txt and fleet2.txt, so you can just take this and you see the format already. So below the D comma ship or the division name, as many lines as you'd like are going to be all the ships which belong to that division. And each of these lines is first in quotes the ship name and comma, and then in quotes the actual ship design file. And if you're wondering what this means, you probably have looked at this before, but just in case you haven't, when you are creating a new ship design in Rule the Waves, we'll just auto-generate something. This is actually from the Rule the Waves Succession series, so a couple years back, I think. We'll just make this the Tortuga class. So it's some 38,000 ton dreadnought, good-looking ship. We don't really care about any of the actual characteristics of it. This is just a test. So when we generate that file, we can go into... This is game 2. Inside of save. So this is game 2, the actual save directory for the save game, that Rule the Waves Succession game. And you can see that if I sort by date modify just to get the most recent file, it's testudo.20d. So yeah, this was over 2 years ago that we did the Succession series. I'm just going to copy this file and paste it into my directory here. Because what you'll see is in Fleet 2, I'm actually calling for this testudo.20d. I set this up to, we had a little prep ahead of time, so we got all this ready. So in Fleet 2, we see that we have Division 1, and this consists of 5 Tortugas, or Testudo, ship designs. Then we have another division with 4 cruisers, the Pittsburgh, and then we have these destroyers, which are the same for both. Both of them are using the Bravi. Okay, now that those are correctly set up, we double click on the simulator and it's going to generate a log.txt file. This is obviously a terrible front end. I wouldn't even call this a front end. Later there will be a GUI and you'll be able to generate all the stuff from there, which will be much better. But for now, just take this for what it is, as something to get the job done, which is all that it is. It's just barely functional, but it is functional. So once we open up the Fleet Combat, this is actually a rare event, which the view distance is only 10,000 yards. So pretty bad weather, which I tried to limit the number of bad weather occasions. Anyway, so the file starts off with an introduction, just an introduction of the fleets. First tells you what the weather is, so that's also the starting distance for the 2 fleets. Then it goes through all the divisions in Fleet 1 and all the ships. You can see that the Fuji is a 42,000 ton dreadnought. And then it also shows a little bit of the internals of the simulator that it built. So it gives it each of these ships an offensive and a defensive rating. You can see that the defensive, or both these ratings are much higher for the Dreadnought than they are for the light cruiser. And you can see that even the destroyer's offense is slightly higher than the cruiser. These are like mid-game cruisers on both sides. This one as well, mid-game. You can see they're actually very comparable. Although technically this is an armored cruiser. It's 6,600 tons. You might as well just think of it as a light cruiser. And these don't have a lot of torpedoes. But these destroyers are actually late-game destroyers, and they do. So they have, actually significantly higher offensive rating because of having so many more torpedoes. Anyway, then once it introduces the ships, we get into the combat itself. Starting at 10,000 yards, a lot of people are going to be able to fire right away. So Fuji 1 and the Chicagos all opened up on different targets. The Fujis chose to engage the Dreadnoughts. The Chicagos chose to engage some destroyers. On the other side, the Tortugas tried to engage the opposing Dreadnoughts as well, and the same story. The cruisers engaged the destroyers. So we can see that there's some hits going on here. Fuji 1 hit Tortuga 2 for 13% health. Tortuga 3 hit Fuji 2 for 13% health. Blah, blah, blah. Some of them will be slowed down every round. This is like the abstraction of the Great Spring fouled and all that. And so on and so forth. So we go now, they move again. More people are engaging. We have destroyers getting involved now. So there'll be absolute carnage. I expect to see some people sinking. And there we go. It doesn't take too long. Only 3 rounds and we have some destroyers sinking. I'll just scroll down to the very bottom of this event. And we'll see who ends up more or less being the winner. The battle's over. By the end of it, ships do detach if they're slowing down their division. By the way, a lot of the behavior has been even improved, I would say. This is 3.7, and I think I already mentioned this. I think I did. We're now up to like 0.4. So anyways, the Fujis, 3 of them survived in the main division, and 1 of them survived at only 11% health, but survived nonetheless. The cruisers remained untouched, and they lost 1, 2, 3, 4 of their 7 destroyers. So that means 4 destroyers sunk and 1 of their dreadnoughts in a critical shape. Very bad damage. On the other side, Fleet 2, which appears to be the victor, ended up with none of their ships, none of their dreadnoughts below 50% health, and only 2 destroyers sunk. Now, this is a perfect example of what I would like to see in most of the combat resolutions, is a very conservative result. So we notice that there's not too much damage done, as in not too many ships sunk. The use case for this simulator is probably going to be when you're not interested in simulating a battle. I don't imagine people will just simulate an entire campaign. It's still fun to fight the actual battles, but let's say you are up by 200,000 victory points, that's an absurd amount, but let's just say, and you get some kind of fleet battle and you're not interested in fighting it. In fact, you might just be at that point waiting for the enemy government to collapse for victory in the war. And you might just start simulating some of the battles instead of declining them and losing, although it's just at that point a meaningless amount of victory points. Maybe as a point of pride, or I don't know, maybe you would still just rather simulate the battles so that maybe even if you lose a few ships, you're causing them to lose some ships, maybe they collapse faster. I don't know. Nonetheless, if you're allowing someone else to control your ships for you, probably the number one thing you would ask them to do is be cautious. Don't lose ships. So that's what I've kind of designed the simulator to be, is a pretty cautious entity, so that if you simulate, you could lose some ships. You might not win the battle, but hopefully the worst case scenario is still not too bad. It doesn't, the admiral, the AI admiral, or my simulator admiral, doesn't come back and say, hey, I lost every single one of your dreadnoughts. That's not what I would desire to see. I'll run another one real fast, but I just want to make a mention at this point that I am not at all in any way affiliated with Naval Warfare Simulations, NWS, the developers of this game. I actually asked for permission to even talk about this simulator a while ago, and they did say, yeah, just make sure that people don't know that you're not associated with us. So let me make that very clear. And ultimately, I still would hope that some kind of auto-resolve or simulator makes it into the game. Let's see. So in this case, we had a simulation that started at 26,000 yards, and the end case was 1 Fuji was down to 24% health. another at 46%. 3 of the cruisers were sunk, and 3 destroyers. I mean, for a pretty big fleet engagement, this is not too bad. That's kind of a lot of cruisers, but I think this is partly because they are not escort role right now, which they are in the current version. This is, again, later version. I mean, an older version. Also, again, this is a nice, these are 2 really good examples where we lost 3 cruisers and 3 destroyers from one group, no dreadnoughts, and we lost, Tortuga 1 was down to 35% health. That's pretty low. Fuji was down to 24%. So the Fleet 2 still came out ahead, but 2/3 health for some of these guys. And Division 2 actually did lose one of their cruisers as well. So we lost 3 cruisers versus 1 cruiser, and 3 destroyers versus 5 destroyers. No, 6 destroyers. So it seems like it's kind of an even fight. Or when I look at this, it seems realistic, although it is, again, still somewhat conservative. We're not losing dreadnoughts. So that's a good result. Now, what am I asking for? Or what's the point of this? I'm trying to show people this so that they can get excited about it. Maybe they try it out, they use it, so that I can get feedback. I've already had a lot of help from Alekius and Oak Tree. Big thanks to them. But now I think it's time to just kind of use the law of large numbers to start to find any edge cases where things are happening in a bizarre way. So please, if you can, by the time this video goes live or shortly after it, I should have a comment pinned in the comment section below, linking directly to where I'm posting this on the Rule the Waves forum, the NWS forum. And I'll hopefully be getting some feedback about people's experience using this so we can try to hone it into something even better. This also opens up the possibility of multiplayer, right? So now we can have a Rule the Waves tournament, which I'm kind of excited about already. I want to wait for the simulator to be a little bit more developed first, but then at some point I can say, all right, here's the guidelines. Give me 8 dreadnoughts, 15 cruisers, 20 destroyers. None of them, like the total tonnage has to be like 500,000, and the total cost can't be more than whatever, like $1 billion or something. And each, you can't have whatever. There'll be little rules to prevent people from trying to game the system, because the simulator probably won't be able to handle those edge cases very fairly. But we can actually pit 2 different fleets against each other, and we can see in a weird way who's designing the best fleet. For the simulator, it's not really the best fleet, but at least for the simulator. That sounds kind of fun to me, so I kind of like that idea. Maybe we can get a Rule the Waves tournament as the closest approximation for multiplayer that we'll ever have. And just a reminder, in case you're living in a cave, when it comes to Rule the Waves these days, Rule the Waves 2 final whatever release date has been announced as April 25th, and you can definitely expect that I'll be doing a series when that time period comes. So thanks for watching this. Hopefully I'll see you on the forums, dropping some feedback. And also, hopefully I'll see you for the Rule the Waves tournament whenever that happens. Until then, thanks for watching, good luck with the simulator, and take care.